Hello, welcome to another day's AF Trains video featuring American Flyer trains by A.C. Gilbert, rebuilt and maintained to engineering practices, factory specification standards, and underpinned by lessons learned from literature, personal experience, collaboration, which is so important, and applied knowledge to update and advance the skill of this particular craft. The mission of Day's AF Trains has always been and will continue to be the fact-based preservation of these great trains. The goal is a value-added proposition without the hype and the flair or the flowery over-presentations. Remember, the trains are the show. And before we continue, just a shout out to the owner, how much I appreciate his patience during the rebuild process so that I could share some new information, or at least some information that I discovered during the rebuild of this locomotive. Now, this project focused on the rebuild of an owner's 21085, a 462 Pacific Chicago Northwestern Line, American Flyer Lines, Type 1, according to Doyle. Locomotives with this particular number were cataloged from 1958 through 1965. And as you can see, this one was built in April of 1958. This train began what I labeled as the last era of Gilbert trains. It came into the inventory near the end of the life of American Flyer by A.C. Gilbert. It underwent types 1 through 6, including the road name changes and structural changes that evolved all the way up to and including Pike Master trucks, couplers, and pull-more tires on the front axle drive. Speaking of pull-mores on the front axle drive, I've worked on several plastic body Atlantics with pull-more tires on the front, not the rear drive wheel axle. This particular transference of tractive force to the non-geared axle can result in the side rod having an enlarged or elongated hole where it connects to the front wheel drive. And that would be right here if it were done on this one. So on those Atlantics, what I saw is, of course, let's think of it as just those two wheels, the geared axle, the non-geared axle, and of course the short side rod, but the pull-more here, which means the transference of the force took place here. And it caused the side rod to become integral to that change in the direction of the force, or to the position of the force, pulling here. Now you wonder, why in the world, at least myself and other colleagues wondered, why in the world did Gilbert put the pull-more tire on those Atlantics on the front axle? And the only thing that we could surmise is that if you take an Atlantic, at least it's been my experience, especially the plastic bodies, and balance it right here on the rear axle, the train teeters. It looks to have equal weight distribution. And the only thing we could imagine is, with the tractive force here, it may have caused the train to lift a little bit in the front. So the tractive force and the contact with the railhead was moved to the front axle, but it caused that elongated hole, sometimes that you see inside journal boxes or on diesels, to be on this particular side rod. So take the side rod off of some of your Atlantics and see what that hole looks like on the front. Nothing too unusual here. This is a 462 Pacific that featured the very common black painted plastic boilers and tender bodies. It does have an operating headlight. It has smoke and choo-choos, you can see, all mounted in the body and the boiler. But it has difference from the 282s and 283s and 287s is that it has the two-position reverse unit on the rear of the motor. Now, according to Doyle, Deeger, and the Gilbert Factory Service Manual, the rear drive wheels should be fitted with pull-more tires. This one was not. It didn't look like they had ever been on there. So I don't know if it was Gilbert cutting short a little bit with supplies and therefore trying to reduce the cost of manufacturing, but this one didn't have any, and I put them on there because my experience has been with these lighter weight Pacifics and even the Atlantics is that sometimes you just don't get the traction you need with those, and so I decided to add them for the owner. So we'll see how that holds up. As you can see, I've already mounted the pull-more tires on the drive wheels on the rear geared axle. Now, other evidence that pull-more tires should be present on this locomotive is the mechanical, what's called the mechanical breakdown ledger. And that ledger shows that the field on this train, right here, the field is an XA9547C. And it is very common to the steamers that have a Pullmore motor component. Other interesting features include the motor with a drum type versus the disc type of commutator, and the tender frame actually has slots for the reverse unit in it. So it's not uncommon for AC Gilbert to use up inventory. And as you can see, the slots here are the ones, for example, the lock lever goes right there, and there's the two positions to hold the base, and then the screw hole is up here underneath the truck, that could have held the reverse unit in the tender. But instead, Gilbert probably moved it up here for a lot of different reasons.